Being a CISO is like waging a never-ending chess game against players you don't know, can't see, and attack without warning. On this podcast, cybersecurity experts have a pragmatic dialogue on cyber risk, current attacks, and security trends. Welcome to the CISO's Gambit.
Today I'm joined by Adriano Lima. Adriano is CISO who leads information security efforts across Latin America and is an attorney with a degree in electronic law. Adriano is a member of the Brazilian Technical Standards Association, the International Association of Privacy Professionals, and is the author of 4 books, 3 on cybersecurity and 1 on Brazilian privacy law and its implementation. Adriano Lima, welcome to the show today. It's very nice to have you.
Hey, hello everyone. So thank you very much for the invitation. Nice to talk to you, Brad, Sean, Dom. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have another special guest joining us today, my colleague and one of our leaders, Brad Moldenhauer, the originator of this show many years ago. So Brad, nice to see you here again, my friend.
I always enjoy coming back here. Remember, my ongoing joke is whenever I come back here, founder and longtime listener. So I'm looking forward to the dialogue. And Adriano, it is great to see and talk to you again.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Adriano, for our audience, you are the CISO at GRSA Compass. Would you mind giving us an overview of the organization itself and the scope of your responsibility as the most senior executive on the security side?
GRSA is a part of the Compass Group. It's a company in charge of the management restaurant here in Brazil. In fact, we have many businesses. For example, industry, business, automotive industries also, but also hospitals, schools. We have also some events making catering for such kind of events. For example, Lollapalooza down to the town. And here in Brazil, we have about 25,000 employees and working for overall states in Brazil. So globally speaking in Brazil, all the states, many cities present with a very important provider of food services, and also have something in facilities too. So those are the critical and main core business we have here. Consider my roles here, I'm in charge of the cybersecurity risks, also considering the management of the team, threat intel, also the SOC, and also, of course, all the IT risks regarding the company, the branding, and also supporting the leadership team in order to avoid any kind of risks and any problems with the brand of the company.
How did you get to meet Mr. Moldenhauer? I know he's a big fan of yours.
Oh, yeah. We have talked about it because of the Zscaler. Well, we started implementation here almost 2 years already, one and a half. And then after implementation, many conversations, many people from Zscaler have been in touch. I've been 3 also last year, which was a very nice opportunity to be in touch with the Zscaler team. And unfortunately, we didn't met together in the Zenith 23, but who knows next to 24.
Yeah. Will you be joining us for this year's Zenith Live?
Yeah, maybe. I'm waiting for the invitation.
Sean, what happens when we put together a breakout session? They're always like, where's your customer at? I found mine.
Done and done. We know a guy.
Yeah, I definitely know a guy. Yeah, Adriano and I were just talking about, again, I come from the same background in that we're once a customer where I implement and operationalize the service. So that's what we do here. We help customers with that and provide insight and not just all the successes, but also what some of the challenges were. Because look, if I went through a modicum of pain and I can help somebody avoid that with some kind of nuanced scenario, yeah, I'm all for it. But inevitably, when Adriano and I talk, it's all about security outcomes. And then, of course, we both found out that we're both football fans. That's European football. Hey, cybersecurity and football, you can't beat that combo.
Adriano, regarding your business, your organization, a huge portion of this is securing this supply chain as part of the food business. That is, I actually grew up in the food service industry, so I know how important that is in terms of not just the logistics, but the interdependencies down to your customer. From your point of view and your experience, what have you found to be one of the more unique challenges about the various interdependencies on which that supply chain has on your technology stack and the various interdependencies that stack might also have on other supply chains. For example, your software development process.
Okay. Yeah, good question, Sean. In fact, we have much risks and also many challenges on this business. But considering the development capillarity and also the business we have over here, the systems is the most basic one, considering the development itself, where we have some also challenges working with third-party companies, developers also. Actually, the system we use here in Brazil is a third-party company already, and also we have teams working together with us inside the company, others outside. So, considering the homologation, the development, and also the stages of the development process, this is such kind of thing where we working day by day to improve process and also training team, making them aware about the risk, considering artificial intelligence, also considering the risks of the third party itself, the human being, in fact. Even though we have the technologies, also security tools, features, so on, we still have the third party human being over there. And it's a very hard risk. So it's such kind of challenge to work, to improve, to keep looking at it every day, every week, every year, to not lose then from our eyes contact. So that's the main challenge. Of course, we have other challenges considering infrastructure, connectivity, and so on. But those such kind of things, even though you have everything, the human being is there. We have the man in the middle yet.
Sean, something interesting about this is I can imagine that some of the business risks associated with that are going to be out of the norm. It's a healthy habit of mine where I contemplate risk. But let's say we're in the food and beverage industry and we're struggling to get resonance, like on a risk dialogue with our executives, right? And because this is the kind of thing you and I are brought in all the time for, to help our security stakeholders, how they can leverage their vendors, such as us, to empower themselves. But I can see scenarios where it's like, hey, we're just having trouble getting traction with our executives. Let's suspend our disbelief, pre-SEC and all this kind of stuff. But I think what I've typically seen in any industry is that they're focused a bit too much on the typical risk issues, which are probably just operational technology risk. But what I've been seeing recently is CISOs thinking a little bit more broader. So let's go back to the food and beverage industry. Let's say that if you were to ask them, hey, what's your number one business risk? I would like to hear them say, maybe it's getting some tainted lettuce or hamburger meat that has E. coli. Okay, so food safety, right? And if you start having dialogues based upon the correlation between cybersecurity and food safety, I don't know of too many executives in that industry that are going to be listening to you, right? Because when we start thinking about our sensibilities, what all three of us are really good about, we can make that correlation, right? So it's, hey, maybe there's vulnerabilities in the data from the slaughterhouse into the truck that's carrying the side of beef into some industrial control unit or an OT system with a GPS and an RFID tag. And then all of a sudden, we don't know if our data is safe anymore our food is safe anymore because maybe that data isn't reliable because of some kind of potential exploit. Because now, you got a real supply chain risk on your hand. And I'm sure, Adriano, you probably think about these kind of things all the time. I'm just spitballing here, but I think it's fascinating.
I was going to ask you, Adriano, on that very front, within cybersecurity, there's always that balance between the traditional confidentiality, integrity, availability triad. Mm-hmm. And every organization's balance is slightly different and in some cases is much more extreme. When you think about the design of your program, and really to Brad's point here, do you find that in your business, there are just overt and very obvious on one or more of those in terms of prioritization?
Yes, yeah, no, in fact, yes, the trade is still is very strong over here. We followed it for all of them all day long, and normally on the on board, and also when the new teams are arriving, especially the executives, we try to inform them, make them aware about it. The data classification, of course, it's part of the confidentiality. And also, of course, the availability is another key point. I think that without availability, we don't have confidentiality and integrity, integrity because we don't have access to the information. So it's one of our also big risks here, considering Brazil itself, as we have the north and also the south. In the north specifically, we have the Amazonian forest. It's very difficult to arrive over there with the connectivity. We have, for you have an idea, we have here Starlink for such kind of unities where we can use it to improve our connectivity or to have the connectivity. And some of the others, we don't have even Starlink. So we keep trying to improve this to make the connection and also make availability of the data and the production. So if we lost, for example, availability, the connection, the connectivity, we lost the supply chain. We lost the possibility to make the menu. So if we don't make the menu, we don't have services.
Right.
And
Right.
if this keep for more than 1 week, we can have very big issues with the business. So it's such kind of risk we have look around every day, every week. So it's time for us every time to improve this everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's interesting. I love that question too, Sean, because I think inevitably almost everyone's going to end up where Adriano did in that response is we may have an idea of which one of those three is paramount for our organizations. And look, frankly, they all are, but you know what? When you start looking at your business holistically, and especially when it comes to executives, if you do not have critical systems available for you to continue generating revenue, confidentiality and integrity are always going to take a back seat. But think about this integrity, like the integrity of that. Again, I'm using a hamburger case here, but let's say that, I don't know, Sean, what was the name of that organization, PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals? What if they staged some kind of, I don't know, like quiet coup where they wanted to compromise this to save a couple hundred cows or something, and they mess with the integrity of that data and it really compromises food safety? That's a risk that a cybersecurity leader in that industry needs to be contemplating, right? So I find this fascinating when you start looking at it like that, getting away from just solely the technology side.
Because of the nature of your business from the supply chain of perishable items, a disruptive cyber event that would potentially prevent the delivery of these perishable items
Okay.
would cause a potentially significant material impact, as opposed to other businesses where they might say, oh, we'll deliver the VCRs tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, that's where we have the business continuity plan for the operations. Yes, we cannot trust only the technology, because considering the technology, yes, everything is running, it's fine. We have everything working by the supply chain systems. And then once the food or the raw material finish in the unit, for example, then automatically the stocks update, the warehouse updates, and depending, of course, the unit to the size of the customers. But in most of the cases, we have some stocks, we have some data warehouse and a place where we have business things over there. But of course, meat, some other things we cannot keep for too much time. So normally 2-3 days or a week, or depending on the situation, we can afford, we can keep the business running. More than this, yes, we have a very big risk. So have business continuity plan to work on this, considering such kind of time, or physically speaking, situation on where we have food over there, raw materials, so on. But of course, the idea, and also each time for us outside or off systems, yeah, it's such kind of a $3 million, $4 million of loss. So it's such kind of very important risk, and where we work with redundancies on connectivities, systems, and of course, business continuity plan for the operation. Working manually until the business returns and goes up in order to us keep moving with the business. But that's kind of a very critical situation when this happens.
When you're looking at that balance, then circling back to the importance of malicious actors in the scenario that Brad gave, where somebody is doing it for their own worldview, their own perspective, there are other threat actors that are also sophisticated at nation state level. And one note that Dan shared with me as he was helping us prepare for today's conversation is that one of the key things that was mentioned in portions of your strategy, this all being public, of course, is that the global political conflicts that are occurring and the various wars that have broken out might introduce significant risk into your operations. In the case of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, has there been a change in the way that you might be balancing some of your risk equations due to these things? And could your organization find itself being retaliated against? And if so, why?
Yeah, well, considering the conflict, thanks God in Brazil, we don't have too much. So the case here is more difficult for the politics, which are the bad situation we have here, bad situation. But considering the conflicts outside for Brazil, it's especially impact other countries outside of the Latin America. But talking about cybersecurity, yes, in this case, yes, we have some such kind of facts where arrive to me as the regional responsible here, receiving information from threats and also tentatives of attacks of any kind of system or operation, but not specifically from corporate group, Compass Group, but such kind of a third party, for example, provider, such kind of company which has big impact considering our business. And yet, in our case here for Brazil, the most difficult and also the risky also have considering this is the inflation here, where before it was more difficult, it was a high. For example, have a situation with tomato. Tomato was very expensive, and then we had to review the menus in order to improve this, reduce costs, and keep the quality of the operations, to have an idea of this kind of situation. But considering Ukraine, Russia situation, we still keep receiving nowadays many communications from threats and also attacks from our SOC team. And of course, we keep looking at it and try to avoid this to impact our business. So for that, we have some of also levels of security, which support us to be safe and also secure. But anytime looking at it, reinvestigate more, making the impact on our business, considering even though the other countries, of course, in order to avoid the risk to Brazil over here. But yes, keep looking at it, even though outside the cyber environment.
I got a question for you, because that's some really good insight. When it comes to, say you've been doing a fair amount of risk hunting, you've identified something that could potentially cause a material impact. How difficult or what strategies have you used to go to your executive team to request funding for a project that you need to pursue to mitigate that risk down to acceptable levels? Is it a standard process, or do you have your own approach to it? I'm more curious from a cultural perspective how that works.
Yeah, that's a good point to be part of the group team, a group company, considering the standards we have implemented for all the world. For example, we have controls very specific for IT. Also, we have audits, internal and also external audits. So those make us to be aware about it, the risk. So, for example, we have a level of maturity for the core processes from our cybersecurity. For example, awareness, identity, access management, or backup retention. For other specific procedures, we have many core processes where the risks are controlled in order to avoid such kind of situation. Sorry.
Yeah.
In this case, she's going to school. Sorry. In those cases, yes, we have those controls. The internal audit. Each country has the main audit. The global group security and audit manager are also working with us. So when we have those kind of reviews for such kind of processes, then we take care of it, making a better assessment, look for options to mitigate those risks, and then present to the group, normally to the executives in Brazil in the marketing, in order to approve these investments. Most of them also are supported by the group. So those is the process normally we follow for those kind of things.
Okay. Yeah. So and that makes a lot of sense. It's hey, we've had a independent assessment of risk or an audit against business processes. There's a deficiency there, and we need to put some kind of control in place. Yeah, I can speak for Sean and I here, I think, where we, a lot of times we do talk to customers that are just, hey, I need to do this, but I just don't have the budget for it. And, sometimes that kind of leads us into, more of a philosophical or psychological discussion where, you start taking a look at what your current spend is. And I think that sometimes, CISOs just, might not be as informed on, hey, I know a lot of money on this and here's what it's doing, but is that really what it's doing? But you might be spending a lot of money on a failed control that was just there for compliance sake or something like that. And then when they start taking a look at it, I've heard this before where it's like, well, it doesn't seem to me that you're properly managing the risk now. As a matter of fact, a lot of these controls looks like you've slowed down business processes by 30 or 40%, probably affected your time to market. And now you're contemplating going to your board and asking them to give you more money, more budget, and more people, So, I'm just always curious about that because and granted, I CISO at a pretty big hospital in the DC area and then at a global law firm, never really had a problem where I had to tell someone, I'd love to do that and we need to do that. I just don't have any money. I ran into that. Yeah.
So, changing gears a little bit here. I'm really curious about your background. One of the things that I learned is that you actually have a formal education and degree in law, specifically electronic law. Could you share with us first the order of operations? Was that your first calling or did it become something that was adjacent to your career as a cybersecurity executive?
No, thank you for that question, Sean, because something that it's an honor for me. I am very proud because it was very difficult to achieve it. I am, first of all, graduated in computer science. I've made the technical school in data processing, and then it was something that I really liked, working with computers. Then the computer science makes me aware about network development and so on. So I thought that I was more for the side of infrastructure. And then when I used to work for an American transactions company. I used to work for a European also personalization company, credit card company. And then we were in Brazil here working considering the opposite from US. We were moving for migration from Magstripe to chip card. And US too were using very much the Magstripe card. So here in Brazil, crime has increased a lot. Card clones and also crimes over stealing data from credit cards, so on. When I was working on this in 2004, more or less 2005, I was wondering how those guys were going to explain to the judge, to the court, what's going on. Oh, because my IP address got my Stripe card, my data from card, so the judge was gonna be crazy. And then I started to talk to some other guys, understanding if it would be such kind of possibility to support. And then I knew some other lawyers here in Brazil, very known on this subject. So I said, okay, so it's something interesting. I was wondering a lot because I was already program manager for ADP. And also just after that in 2009, but I was working for F-Secure where we have, I don't know if Brad knows this guy, but this guy is it's my such kind of mentor, Mike Hyppönen. It's a Finland guy, which he founded the F-Secure company.
Yeah. Yeah. I do know of him, and by the way, I used to use F-Secure a number of years ago on an old Linux machine. So yes, I do.
Yeah, and when I was working to this company, I was the IT security guy for the company, and then a manager. Wow. Yeah, I was a IT security manager over there. I had to take off the academic from the tools, the certification, so on for the tools. Mm-hmm. We used to work with spans, antivirus, so on. It was a very nice opportunity to learn a lot. And we had to work with many fight against cybercrime. It was such kind of presentations, marketing, and meetings. We had meetings with schools, with many other companies about that. And in the schools, I was loving to go there and to explain, to talk to this about for the children. And then I started to the university for for law. In fact, the first year I was already making seminars, inviting authors from my friends, and also make people to be aware. The students were calling me like a crazy guy for electronic law, thinking with the law, and then the judges in the class making talking to each other when they start to making responsibilization, civilization, and so on. I will start to talk about the internet and the connection and many things. So it was crazy. It was a very nice opportunity. And besides of the graduation, I make the specialization in electronic law. So I finished the graduation in 2030, and 2011 finished the specialization. And then after, as in US, we need to have the bar, the certification for legal. And then I started another fight. Finishing the graduation in 2015, I took the graduation. So I am a real lawyer with the bar certificate for Brazil, but specifically working with many other cases on the cyber crimes, and very nice. Participating in such kind of speeches on cyber crimes and artificial intelligence. Here we have the micro civil, the internet. We have also the cyber crimes here implemented in 2030. Many of legalization. I have participated with some other colleagues here in the implementation. Very nice.
I was just going to say, you know what drove me to buy it? And by the way, this was a consumer license of F-Secure. And Adriano, you probably know this, but I might screw this up. But Sean, I'm pretty sure F-Secure was the first, let's just call it an anti-malware client, to have like an anti-rootkit detection capability.
Yeah.
They were the first one ever. So I remember I bought a license for, I don't know, like circa 2003, 4, around that time. But that's what it was. I was like, a rootkit, and they can detect it? Oh, that's too cool. I got to get that.
Very nice too. Very nice.
It's interesting how those types of innovations drive the entire industry.
Yeah. Well, very nice opportunity also to talk about AI, because in fact, for me, it's a great technology. It's a very, very interesting thing. But of course, considering the perspective of the legal overview, when we look at it, I have made 2 years, or I don't think so, 2 years or 3 years ago, I made a presentation, a speech on the autonomous cars, for example, the smart cars, And of course, that's why I love US. It's very, very long. You are much far away from us here in Brazil. Here in Brazil, the law for driving a smart car is impossible. For now, we have level 2, some cars in level 3. Considering the small cars, the segment. We have until level where you have for example, you sit this and drive and go on. Here in Brazil, impossible to have this such kind of car because of the streets.
Driving, yeah.
Even pseudo-autonomous or assisted?
Yeah, no, but level 2 or 3. When you need to touch the drive, the hill, you cannot leave long, not possible.
But trying to get smart cars over there, is it also maybe the petroleum industry blocking some of that too? Because I could see that too. It's like, hey, we start getting rid of all the combustible engines. No one's going to buy any gas.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We have here a law for artificial intelligence in place. It's still running to approval and so on. It's in our Congress over here. We have the cars, yes, but we have problems with the street, the roads over here. We have a lot of holes. We have a lot of bad streets, bad roads, So it's impossible for automotive cars over here, smart cars. And so considering the aspects of the cars, of course, have other aspects of when we talk about computers, but considering the aspect of the cars, it's difficult for the legal point of view to to evaluate this response for each kind of incident. In a kind of an incident, who is in charge of this? Is it the industry? Is it the guy which creates multimedia? Is it the car which creates the such kind of part of the cars are in the gen and AI. I have a car today. I have a car with a small part of the intelligence where I can drive it and stop, take it, hand the wheel, and he moves and stops, he moves and stops, fine. But he just make course such part of it. And even in the small street, when he stops some moment, he doesn't stop. So every time we need to keep the hands on it. And so considering the law, we are looking at it on this. And of course, consider regulations for the streets and for the car to itself. And for generative AI, in our perspective, and of course, my legal perspective is amazing, because considering the data protection, the child right, for example, here, about it. We have already Instagram's accounts of AI. So totally AI accounts. They have much more users than me, followers than me. So we have many risks yet on generative AI for all the specific business. So consider the security of that. It's a field where we have a lot of things to do, a lot of things to keep an eye on it. And of course, a lot of possibilities for security on it.
What are your thoughts in terms of the way that organizations are adopting it? Yeah, I had a conversation yesterday with a CIO of a very large entertainment company, and she made a comment to me that her sense was that many of her peers are not as far ahead as they say that they are when it comes to the adopting of this technology. When it comes to the enablement of this technology, the legal ramifications and the business implications, what have you found in your organization as you're looking at the subject that has been successful and you believe is repeatable elsewhere?
Well, that's a very good point. Yes, everybody is excited, but just few people are security. So to present them the risks, so the possibilities of problems, they keep hold a little bit. But we are, for example, I think that's smart, and also, of course, monitoring this, considering the possibilities. Okay, to do it with depending. For example, also there is such kind of. I was visiting Dell. And we have found to improvements in such kind of a production where you have people connecting parts of assembling a computer, So easy. You put a camera over there and you just look for smart parts of a computer and so on. Also, it's easy, for example, in such kind of operation like us, for reading the documents and also improving information to such kind of preparing menus, something like this. But most of those situations has such kind of risk. AI, in case of the planning, menu planning, for example, we have risks considering possibilities of exchanging information or people making some mess up with the AI, don't using very well. Also, data classification. We have issues on it. When once you have using the Copilot, for example, you need to take care for the kind of less license you have. Otherwise, you are gonna be given to go through all the folders you have with sensitive information and what's going on. I don't know if you ask it to Copilot. Okay, go make me a report from my financial numbers from last. So it's going to get all the information, maybe critical information, sensitive information, and put for everyone. So we need to take care. So it's a very nice opportunity to improvement, but we have some risks yet.
Sean, he said something there that I bring up all the time. Whenever generative AI is in any other context other than like changing, the world or turning it upside down, where I really enjoyed it is, like Gen AI and productivity suites, just tools. Like I welcome it when a typical enterprise business app, or like Office productivity suite, where I conceptually have come up with some kind of feature. I've drawn it up in my mind. It'd be nice to have some mature version of Clippy pumped up on a generative AI steroid. I think it would be quite useful. It would save me time for searching YouTube for a video on how to add gradient color to a customized elbow connector or something like that. It would essentially strip away and bury that complexity for me. But to Adriano's point, there is a risk there too. I mean, because what kind of integrity, do we have that model isn't doing unbeknownst to me? So I'm just talking about an office productivity Gen AI. And how do we know that that model isn't, I don't know, susceptible to embedding malicious code in my presentation file, ostensibly weaponizing it, and I send it to a customer. And now I've become a distributor of malicious code because of a model flaw that allowed it to be manipulated or poisoned. I mean, these are the scenarios we need to be thinking about because we've already seen AI and ML models used for malware dissemination. So if we enable an add-on, on a flawed ML model into our corporate office apps, that would be instantaneous mobilization of a monumental malware delivery system camouflaged by our identities and the trust that we have with our peers, customers, and stakeholders as we exchange these files. So we went from something helping me make pivot tables to me pretty much killing off humanity. So that's the way we need to be thinking about these things.
That component of how
I can keep going.
That rabbit hole goes. I think we've all read, sufficient sci-fi to help us see the dystopia that could easily be created. If I'm utilizing these tools, the output quality, the specificity is 100% derived from the ability of the human to communicate clearly intention, what the outcome is. And what I'm finding is that in certain disciplines, let's just use computer science, right? The importance of communicating between the programmer to whatever the actual eventual compiler is and whatever intermediary that is, whatever level of abstraction, is dictated by very specific language, parameters and controls, i.e. a programming language or a scripting language. Today, though, some of this functionality is driven by one's command of the written language. And what's interesting is that's not been an area of focus in many educational systems. It's been on some of the hard sciences, which is very important. But this is now an area that I'm seeing. Adriano, you as somebody that has very specific expertise as an attorney in terms of the interpretation of language, ensuring that there's clarity about the intent of the language. Have you made any specific observations along these lines? Because I'm finding myself getting lazier and lazier when it comes to language interaction with these models.
Yeah, no, I haven't done any observation yet on this topic directly, Sean, but I have, of course, my opinion on it. And also, we have raised those risks already. Company, it's globally, this kind of consideration. Locally here in Brazil, we have other tools where we have use of AI. And of course, considering the language is also the possibility of the language model risk still existing. And now we are still trying to follow with care. So the idea is avoid risks to bring to the company and also to outside the company. First of all, looking inside of it, but once you are going to use such kind of, for example, use another documentation for make the financial reports, this could be a risk, a very big math, considering send this outside. For example, sharing this with other, it would be a very big risk. So the understanding is still opening. I think we have many studies to do with many understanding to make, depending very well, a lot of, for example, in the organization itself, in the organization, considering GRSA, I'm talking about GRSA, we have the commercial area, we have the operational area, we have the IT. You know what? We have shadow ITs still on this topic. And the risk there without the artificial intelligence, imagine with the artificial intelligence. So we are working to take care of the perimeter and make the people aware about what we can do and how we can do. So people need to understand how the artificial intelligence works, what to ask for artificial intelligence, because people think they can do everything, but you need to know how to ask and what you are going to receive as a result. So It's a challenge. We have a lot of challenges on the artificial intelligence use, especially language models, so on. But I am totally clear and sure. I love it. So I believe very much that we have many things to do with it, but we need to take care of it. How to use it. That's my point.
What have you learned about the complexities of operating in an environment? Many of our audience are in an organization that is perhaps North America focused or South America focused and have not yet moved to organizations of the size of yours. What might you say to somebody that is considering making a change to something of that size and that scope?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. One topic on it is the AI for sure. The legalization, I think the laws for AI is going to increase very, very hard for all countries. Well, we have kind of movement on it already. Brazil also, I believe in US, if not are moving on, they are pretty soon. It's going to be the same movement we had with data protection. Now, in California, we have the data protection specifically for California, I know, but we have the privacy shield before we have movements on changing this also for US. In Europe, we have the GDPR. Brazil, we could approve after many years of conversations, many years of goals and going to come back. We could approve and make it the LGPD, which also has improved. You know what? LGPD has improved and enforced a lot the cybersecurity guide. CISO has become a very important guide for many companies because of the LGPD. The LGPD is the such kind of article where you need to inform the company as the GDPR. You need to inform the company when you have a data breach in 48 hours, which means that you have to make such kind of report, technical, and put everything, what you have, you have, so on. It doesn't, if you have or not, you can get a fine on it anyway, can have a penalty because even though you have the security implemented, you have a data breach. So you can at least receive an alert of data breach over there. So the laws for use of information, the data, the AI, all the countries, like Colombia is an old country with the data protection laws on it. Argentina second, and then Chile, Mexico, and Brazil comes after. So those countries, Argentina and Colombia, they had already many small laws regarding data protection. They they avoid they advanced a little bit more with putting those together. And Brazil just got this LGPD in place because of the GDPR. And also we had also Marco Civil the Internet. You have a cybersecurity law here in place since 2030, which means that this made the companies a little bit more interested on have security in place. So I think that the movement from Europe and US, considering data protection, make this. And also the same is going to happen with the AI. The Congress for all the countries are going to work on such kind of legal law for the AI, and then going to make these important security risks on it, make the teams and companies, okay, let's implement it, yes, but let's follow such steps. Otherwise, we are going to have problems, or for people or for the company. But such kind of things, my opinion, the law is going to be strong for companies and for all the countries on this topic.
Sean, I would never have guessed that it was the Los Cafeteros who had the first privacy law in South America. I would not have guessed that country.
Adriano and Brad, taking the time to be shared with us today, Adriano and Brad, always your perspectives are fascinating as well. I really appreciate you both making the time. And Adriano, I'm hopeful that we finally get to meet in person at Zenith Live. Brad gets you on stage. You've been listening to the CISO's Gambit. I'm your host, Sean Cordero. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this show, please leave a comment and subscribe.
content on this podcast may contain forward-looking statements that are current as of the date of recording and subject to change. These statements are subject to the safe harbor provisions created by the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Full legal disclaimers are available at revolutionaries.zscaler.com.